What if I told you the world's most fearsome armored weapon, the tank, was born not from raw power, but from a desperate need for speed? This is the War Historian, where weapon evolution isn't linear, it's circular, surprising, and always asks, who wins and who pays? Imagine a battlefield not overwhelmed by force, but by the wild scramble to outrun death itself. The chariot, two wheels, a team of horses, and enough shaking timbers to terrify an army, didn't appear to shatter enemies with overwhelming strength. Around 2000 BCE, on the dusty plains near Sumer, the first prototypes roll into history. Four-wheeled, lumbering, crude as mud, but suddenly, warriors are not plodding across the killing fields. They're flying. Mobility isn't a luxury anymore. It's power. The Sumerians aren't looking for more ways to kill. They're searching for ways not to be killed. Here's the truth. History's most war-defining vehicles almost always begin as the means to escape, not to destroy. Fast forward 12 centuries. The clatter of Egyptian chariots at Kadesh in 1274 BCE is deafening. Ramses II, flanked by archers gripping their bows with white knuckles, surges forward, chariots slicing across the field, outrunning the Hittite infantry. Dust clouds choke the sun. The enemy has no time to react. In that split second, the chariot is invincible, until the archers run out of arrows, the wheels break, or the horses panic. What begins as protection through motion quickly reveals its own fragility. Every attempt at armored safety turns speed into risk. Add heavier panels of bronze or wooden reinforcements, and suddenly, those chariots start to slow. The more you shield yourself, the slower you move. Which brings us to a system-level truth. Every leap in armored technology, every triumph of protection, creates a fresh vulnerability. Armor isn't bravery. It's a compromise between what you can gain and how easily you can be trapped. The paradox only deepens with time. Centuries roll on, and the rules never change. Make a weapon faster, and it rules. Make it tougher, and it becomes the bullseye. By 1917, tanks lumber through the mud at Cambrai, steel behemoths belching smoke, men inside hoping just for a few hours to move without fear. But here's what happened next. The thicker they welded the armor, the slower those tanks crawled, chained to refueling lines and supply trucks. They needed engineers, mechanics, fuel. The cost spirals. The tank was supposed to bring safety to its crew. Instead, it devours resources and demands sacrifices from entire cities. By Kursk in 1943, thousands of tanks grind up against each other. Crews trapped inside, empires labor fueling the war. The arms race never stops. Every step toward safety brings an equal opposite risk. Mobility is no longer escape. It's an invitation to a deadlier chase. So who really controls the power of movement? The kings who order armies into battle? The inventors who dream of faster wheels and thicker plates? Or the people who build, crew, and pay for these machines, not as victors, but as the pawns who suffer? Look around. Every breakthrough on the battlefield demands blood, treasure, or freedom from someone. Ancient craftsmen bent steel for others. Modern tankers risk lives while politicians decide where they roll. In every era, the engine for victory is ordinary hands, and often, those hands never see the spoils. War behaves like a chess game. A new vehicle is unleashed, a tank, a chariot, and the board shifts. The piece rules for an hour, a year, a generation. But soon, a countermove appears. Faster arrows, better anti-tank guns. Each advance traps the player, never allowing escape from the cycle of breakthrough and response. The paradox persists. The weapon you create to help you flee can just as easily become the reason you're hunted. If today's military talks about armored vehicles, drones, or nimble machines, the roots run thousands of years deep, back to those fleeing chariot drivers, terrified and triumphant. So if the weapons we fear began as the means to escape, what crucial event transformed mobility into the paradox of armored warfare? To answer that, we trace back to the dusty plains of Mesopotamia, where the wheel changed everything. Our journey starts 4 millennia ago with a riddle. Why did power-hungry kings bet their empires on a lightweight wooden frame and two-spoked wheels? The truth is, the earliest chariots don't look like the sleek fighting machines of later legend. They're awkward, noisy contraptions rolling out onto the muddy battlefields of the ancient Fertile Crescent. Look at the Standard of Ur from around 2600 BCE, and you'll find Sumerians riding crude, boxy battle carts pulled by donkeys. No horses yet, no speed, just the grinding determination to move faster than lumbering foot soldiers and get close enough to fling a spear at your enemy. But here's what happened next. War forced innovation. Infantry, reliable but slow, couldn't outrun a hail of arrows. Cavalry, just men on horseback, weren't strong or disciplined enough to break lines. The ancient world was hungry for something new. In the smoke and dust of the Bronze Age, technology took center stage. Suddenly, it wasn't enough to have the bravest troops. If you didn't have wheels, you were prehistoric. Enter the chariot, a game-changer born in the workshops of rising empires. Egypt, Hatti, and Babylon, all racing to build lighter frames, faster spoked wheels, deadlier teams powered by the newly domesticated horse. Picture the ancient battlefield as a Formula One race. Speed, not armor, determines who commands and who obeys. The Egyptians see their rivals, first the Sumerians, then the Hittites, refining this new vehicle. Around 1400 BCE, Hittite blacksmiths swapped the old solid wheels for sharper, iron-rimmed ones, slicing through mud and sand with surgical precision. Now, chariots can maneuver, evade, charge, even cut an enemy's formation in half. Armies become obsessed. Wooden wheels, leather harnesses, bronze fittings, they're the difference between disaster and victory. Pharaoh Ramses II understands this all too well. At Kadesh in 1274 BCE, he deploys thousands of chariots for a high-speed clash against Hittite forces. You can almost hear the thunder of hooves, the rattling of wheels, as lines of chariots race across the plain, archers loosing arrows from a stand sunk low enough to dodge incoming spears. For the first time, true battlefield mobility arrives. But there's a problem. Chariots cost a fortune. Trained horses, skilled drivers, expert craftsmen. Only the richest, most powerful rulers can afford them. The war chariot becomes more than just a weapon. It's a moving throne. To ride in one announces you as elite, untouchable, a living symbol of dynasty. In the grand imagery of Egypt, the pharaoh is always in his chariot, never on foot. To see a king standing tall in a two-wheeled chariot, bow drawn, sunlight erupting off bronze plates, that's propaganda as much as tactic. Status and technology fuse into a single system. Whoever commands the most chariots commands the future. We find ourselves in a world where armies design strategies around mobility, not mass or even discipline. Warfare shifts. Victory belongs to the fastest, not the strongest. The pattern locked in by chariot warfare, advantage to those who move, adaptation as necessity, technology as power, echoes all the way forward, from ancient Egypt to modern mechanized armies. Even today's tank warfare is haunted by chariots. Armor plus engine plus shock, rolling across open ground. But here's the riddle. If chariots are so decisive, why do they vanish from history for centuries? How does a battlefield car for kings transform into a weapon every army fears, then suddenly become obsolete? Did the answer come from new weapons or new ideas? Maybe from the spread of technology itself. Because just as chariots sweep across the ancient world, they trigger fierce competition. Empires race to copy, to improve, to outmaneuver each other. The stakes grow ever higher each time the blueprints change hands, forcing a relentless arms race stretching from the Euphrates to the Nile. Kings gamble everything, and every time a wheel rolls onto the battlefield, the rules change. The answer lies in what happened when chariot technology spread beyond Egypt and Mesopotamia, unleashing competition, imitation, and escalating stakes. What happens when everyone on the battlefield wants the fastest weapon? A whirlwind of copying, improving, and outsmarting. 4,000 years ago, the birth of the chariot sparks an arms race nobody can ignore. The blueprint leaks out of Anatolia. Hittite craftsmen rolling out four-spoke wheels, sleek frames, horses thundering ahead, and suddenly, entire civilizations scramble to keep up. The Shang dynasty in China, around 1200 BCE, isn't content to watch from the sidelines. They transform their military, summoning hundreds of artisans to shape wood, bend bronze, and harness horses bred for speed, all so a handful of nobles can ride as living thunderbolts across the steppe.